The NHL is one of the most electrifying leagues in the entire world. There are so many memorable moments, like Alec Martinez's Stanley Cup winning goal in overtime, Alex Burrows slaying the Dragon, or Patrice Bergeron capping an amazing Game 7 comeback. There's been so many historical overtime moments over the years, so today we're going to be trying to cut it to the top 10. So let's start counting down. So to kick this impossible list off, we have Adam Lowry's double overtime winner in Game 7 against the St. Louis Blues. So the 2025 President's Trophy winners, or the best team in the regular season, was pushed to a Game 7 by the 8th-seeded St. Louis Blues following a 5-2 loss in Game 6. So the stage was set for Game 7, and Winnipeg had to win to avoid one of the craziest upsets in recent history. But after falling behind 1-0 early, and then another goal late in the second to make it 3-1, things were not looking good for the Jets. After the Blues' third goal and time dwindling down in the third period, the entirety of Winnipeg seemed pretty hopeless. But that was until Jets forward Vlad Namestnikov scored with 1 minute and 55 seconds to go with the goalie pulled to inject some life into Winnipeg. The Jets continued the battle, and with 1.6 seconds on the clock, this happened. Cole Perfetti shocks the world and ties the game with 1.6 seconds to go to send this Game 7 to overtime. And so a scoreless first overtime would lead us to a decisive second overtime period. And it would be in this period that Jets captain Adam Lowry would score the overtime winner to cap off one of the most shocking comebacks we've ever seen.
Shoots, tip, they score! Game over! Series over!
At number 9, we have Adam Henrik's OT winner to send the Devils to the 2012 Stanley Cup Final. Fierce rivals in the Devils and Rangers met in the Eastern Conference Finals back in 2012. A classic series highlighted by elite goaltending from two of the all-time greats, Henrik Lundqvist and Marty Brodeur, set us up for a Game 6 in Jersey. The Devils jumped out to a 2-0 lead after an elite power play goal by Ilya Kovalchuk, but the Rangers fought back to tie it. Game 6 would be decided in overtime, and who else than then-rookie Adam Henrik to put it away in the scramble in front. And then, of course, we can't forget Doc Emrick's famous call.
Threw one in front, block there, scramble for it there, they poke away at it, still it's loose, poked out by Kovalchuk, they score! It's over!
At number 8, we have Alex Burrows slaying the Dragon. The Canucks and Blackhawks met in the first round of the 2011 playoffs, and after losing in 2009 and 10 to Chicago, Vancouver needed to break the curse. After taking a commanding 3-0 series lead, the Hawks somehow fought back to tie the series. The Canucks led Game 7 1-0 with just under 2 minutes left, only until Hawks captain Jonathan Toews tied the game. The entirety of Vancouver just felt lost, and there was just no answer to the defending Stanley Cup champions. But that was until Alex Burrows, and I'll let John Shorthouse take this away.
Burrows steals, cutting in, shoots, scores! They've slayed the Dragon!
At lucky number 7, we have Artur Verhaeghe's winner to cap off one of the biggest upsets in NHL history. In 2023, the Boston Bruins broke the record for most wins in a season with 65 and points with 135 amongst many others. Yeah, they were an absolute wagon. Meanwhile, the Florida Panthers squeaked into the playoffs with a mere 92 points in the second to last game of the season. The Bruins held a 3-1 series lead like everyone thought they would, but that was until the Panthers turned the tide in Game 5 after a huge overtime winner by Matthew Tkachuk. And after this, the Panthers would somehow force a Game 7 back in Boston. They found themselves down 3-2 with just over a minute to go, and then Brandon Montour snuck one past Jeremy Swayman to tie it. Game 7 overtime means all the pressure in the world was on Boston, and they would ultimately crack, allowing Artur Verhaeghe to walk right to the circle and pick his spot.
Comes to Verhaeghe, turn, shoot, scores! Artur Verhaeghe!
On to number 6, which is Barkley Goodrow's Game 7 overtime winner after an improbable comeback. One of the most epic games we've ever seen started with a 3-0 lead for Vegas with just under 11 minutes to go in the third. This was until Cody Eakin received a major and a game misconduct for a cross-check on Joe Pavelski. Logan Couture scored 6 seconds into the power play to get the Shark Tank rocking. Then 50 seconds later, Tomáš Hertl brought them within 1. And then with 1:21 left on the power play, Couture tied it. And before the 5-minute major was over, Kevin Labanc scored to give them the lead. But we weren't done yet because Jonathan Marchessault amazingly tied the game with 47 seconds left to send it to overtime. And that's when fourth liner Barkley Goodrow scored the goal of his life.
Carlson comes in. Here's Barkley Goodrow.
Moving into number 5, we have Artur Lehtonen's OT winner to send the Cinderella Habs to the finals. The Montreal Canadiens had one of the wildest and most unexpected runs in Stanley Cup playoff history in 2021. A relatively inexperienced team and a little help from an all-time run from Carey Price helped the Habs eliminate Toronto in round 1, coming back from a 3-1 series deficit. In round 2, they went on to sweep the Jets, and in the conference finals, they met the Golden Knights, who were tied for the President's Trophy. Strong play, never quitting, and a why not us mentality led them to a Game 6 back in Montreal. Overtime would determine the outcome, and it'd be Artur Lehtonen to send Montreal to their first Stanley Cup final since 1993.
Now back the other way, it's Denovian. Patrick scores!
Coming in at number 4, we have an all-time classic. Bruins, Maple Leafs, Game 7, 2013. So the Bruins held a 3-1 series lead until the Leafs forced a Game 7 back at TD Garden. Toronto held a 4-1 lead with just under 11 minutes to go in the third, but it wouldn't be a Leafs Game 7 without the ultimate collapse. So the Bruins stormed back with 3 goals in the final 11 minutes to tie Game 7 and send it to overtime. And I'm going to let Jack Edwards do the talking from here.
Marchand to Bergeron on the drive, save, rebound is loose. Sagan kicks it loose. Bergeron scores!
At number 3, it's Patrick Kane's overtime goal to win the Stanley Cup for the Blackhawks. It had been 49 years since the Hawks last won the Cup, and they found themselves in a Game 6 versus the Flyers with a chance to win it. Chicago went down 2-1 midway through the second, but were able to regain the lead just 10 minutes later. Time was dwindling down in the third. The entire hockey world watched on the edge of their seats, and with just under 4 minutes to go, the puck bounced around in front and tipped off Scott Hartnell's stick, and the game was tied. We go to overtime. A Chicago goal wins the Stanley Cup, while a Philly goal sends us back to Chicago for Game 7. And that's when Patrick Kane snuck along the boards and put one on net for one of the more anticlimactic OT goals ever, but nevertheless, a Stanley Cup winning one.
Where's the puck? It came loose on the other side. It's over. Patrick Kane has scored the goal. The Chicago Blackhawks' long drought is over.
Moving on to number 2, we have Chris Kunitz's overtime winner to send the Pittsburgh Penguins to the Stanley Cup Finals. A hard-fought first 6 games by these absolute juggernaut teams set the scene for Game 7 in Pittsburgh. We approached midway through the third period, and that's when Dion Phaneuf took an ill-advised interference penalty. After this, Penn's defenseman Justin Schultz was able to find a lane and give them the lead on the power play. The clock ticked down to 5:19 left, and that's where rookie Ryan Dzingel, who had only played 5 minutes up to this point, scored to tie the game. And so one of the most epic games of all time was heading to a Game 7 overtime. Back and forth chances, mad scrambles, big saves, near goals brought us all the way to the second overtime. And that is where Sidney Crosby would set up Chris Kunitz's one-timer to send the Penguins to the Stanley Cup Final.
Crosby on Kunitz and shot. Penguins win it, and they go to the final.
Now, before we get to number 1, let's go over a few honorable mentions, such as Kevin Bieksa's overtime winner in Game 5 to send Vancouver to the Stanley Cup Finals, Patrick Kane's one-timer to send the Hawks to the Stanley Cup Final, Alec Martinez's Game 7 winner to put the Kings into the Stanley Cup Final for the second time in 3 years, Evgeny Kuznetsov's winner to finally put the Caps through to the conference finals, and Yoel Kivirant's magical hat-trick in one of the best Game 7s we've ever seen. There's so many other great overtime winners, and if you want to see a list of the best ones of all time, Make sure to like and subscribe and let me know down in the comments. Finally, at number 1, we have Alec Martinez's Stanley Cup winning goal in Game 5 of the 2014 Stanley Cup Final. Clutch overtime winners in Game 1 and 2 by the Kings helped set them up for a Game 5 at home with a chance to win the Stanley Cup. Brian Boyle scored shorthanded to give the Rangers a lead late in the second. We rolled into the third, and Marian Gaborik scored on the power play after a scramble in front to tie it at 2. Elite play from legendary goaltenders Henrik Lundqvist and Jonathan Quick took this game to overtime. A Kings goal wins the Stanley Cup, and a Rangers goal sends us back to MSG for a Game 6. After back and forth chances, many posts hit, near misses, and one of the most electric overtimes we've ever seen, we entered the second overtime period. And that's when an odd man rush would break out for the Kings, and the rest is history.